It does look like at least some Republican senators are going to do the right thing, and they're going to vote to have key witnesses like John Bolton testify in the Senate impeachment trial. You'll remember we talked about it earlier already in the context of the propaganda war that is being waged. At the start of Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial, Republicans were able to get an absolutely ridiculous decision to talk about subpoenaing witnesses and documents and audiovisual records after both sides have had their 24 hours to present their cases, and possibly even after there have been 16 hours of questions from senators. This makes no sense. Knowing which documents will be introduced, knowing which witnesses will testify, would be hugely important to structuring your case, as would be done in any other kind of trial. But this is what Republicans were able to pull off. Good for them, I guess, although it's completely ridiculous. So soon, this is going to become the subject in the Senate. We know that you need only a simple majority to subpoena witnesses, meaning the 45 Democrats, the 2 independent senators who caucus with Democrats, that's 47, and 4 Republicans. It seems that we have a couple of Republicans that are going in the direction of at least voting to subpoena John Bolton to testify. One of those individuals is Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney spoke to reporters and said he has yet to decide, but he does seem to be leaning in that direction.
It's increasingly apparent that it would be important to hear from John Bolton. I, of course, will make a final decision on witnesses after we've heard from not only the prosecution, but also the defense. But I think at this stage, it's pretty fair to say that John Bolton has a relevant testimony. I think it's increasingly likely that other Republicans will join those of us who think we should hear from John Bolton.
This came right after the New York Times published those excerpts from John Bolton's upcoming book, his manuscript of the book, where Bolton destroys every single talking point in the defense of Donald Trump on the Ukraine issue. John Bolton very plainly and clearly saying in his upcoming book, Trump told him, withhold the military aid to Ukraine until they smear Joe Biden publicly. This testimony would be devastating to the Republican narrative and to Donald Trump's narrative. And we're going to talk more about what that testimony might do in a little bit. We also heard from Senator Susan Collins. Susan Collins, Republican senator from Maine. She often is very concerned about something, but then ends up voting with Republicans. She put out a statement where she said, from the beginning, I've said that in fairness to both parties, the decision on whether or not to call witnesses should be made after both the House managers and the president's attorneys have had the opportunity to present their cases. She's wrong about that. The decision should be made earlier, but okay, this is her position. Going on to say, I've always said that I was likely to vote to call witnesses, just as I did in the 1999 Clinton trial. The reports about John Bolton's book strengthen the case for witnesses and have prompted a number of conversations among my colleagues. So that's potentially 2 Republicans who will join the Democrats and independents. That would make 49 votes. You still need 2 more to get to the 51 that are needed. But increasingly, there are rumblings that there will be at least 4 Republicans who vote to subpoena John Bolton. Now, even if John Bolton shows up, you aren't going to get a conviction of Donald Trump, but that's not relevant now. We knew that going in, and exposing what John Bolton has to say to the widest possible audience, once again, confirming the brazen nature of Donald Trump's lies, would be a very good thing. There's always a risk that Republican senators will say, I lean towards testifying or whatever, and then they don't actually vote for it in the end. Susan Collins has done that many times. Go back to the Kavanaugh hearings. Until they actually vote, I will assume nothing of them. But it looks like this may actually become a reality, John Bolton's testimony. Romney politically would suffer no consequences from his vote, by the way. Mitt Romney could get reelected indefinitely in Utah as long as he wants, no matter what he does. As many of you know, Utah has a large Mormon population. Mitt Romney is Mormon. Utah is also very conservative. Mitt Romney has that seat for essentially as long as he wants it. Hopefully, he's not just saying he'd consider voting that way and actually will. We've been disillusioned before. We've seen Mitt Romney and Susan Collins, sometimes Lisa Murkowski. They pretend to have a spine. They pretend to have morals. They say they're very worried, and then they just vote with Republicans. So we'll believe it if and when we see it. It will do nothing to secure votes for the conviction of Donald Trump from Republicans. Remember that. I just don't trust them. And anything that depends on a few Republicans acting appropriately, we've learned over the last 20 years, is just not something we can count on in American politics. But let's now get to the effect of the Bolton testimony, because Republicans are panicking about what that possible testimony could mean and could cause. So let's talk about that next. Do you feel like you just don't have enough time to become as intellectually well-rounded as you would like to be, that there are just not enough hours in your week for you to read all of the books that you want to read? One of our sponsors is called Blinkist, and it's an app that lets you consume an entire nonfiction book in 15 minutes. It's only about $8 a month, but you can try it for free for a week and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. What Blinkist does is take thousands of popular nonfiction books and condense them into either text or audio that you can read or listen to in just 15 minutes. And what you get is all of the most important ideas and information from the book. Imagine being able to listen to an entire nonfiction book in the amount of time it takes you to drive or walk home from work. I've just finished listening to Upheaval by Jared Diamond. Jared Diamond, a tremendous author whose work I've previously recommended. Excellent book looking at some of modern history's biggest national crises to figure out how different countries ended up in such precarious situations. Blinkist has totally transformed how I consume information. I love it. Of course, I read a book in its entirety when I can, but there are simply just so many books that I want to read and would not have the time for if it weren't for Blinkist. They have books on politics, economics, philosophy, science, you name it. You can try it out yourself, totally free for a week, and get 25% off if you decide to subscribe just by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video. Like the rest of us, I bet you're going into 2020 thinking about what you didn't get around to in 2019 and your goals for the new year. If you want to work towards being your best self in 2020, understand more about the world around you, and make sure that your time is well spent, then Blinkist is for you.